This is the hollow center, center of nothing, edge of everything, man.
When a politician ascends to the highest office in a state, scrutiny expands beyond policy. It widens to networks, relationships, donors, advisors, and family members. That scrutiny intensified when Jacinta Allan became Premier of Victoria in 2023. This is Victoria Confidential. Her husband, Yorick Piper, is not an anonymous private citizen. He has worked as a ministerial advisor, held union positions, including with the Construction, Forestry, Maritime, Mining and Energy Union, CFMEU, and served in governance roles within skills and industry bodies. There is no hard evidence that Piper has engaged in corruption, nor is he the subject of known integrity investigations. But in politics, proximity is just as powerful as proof. The debate surrounding Piper is not built on criminal findings. It is built on the obvious optics, structural relationships, and clear suspicion of Piper's documented professional background, the nature of clear labour union institutional ties, the CFMEU, controversy and federal intervention, the decision-making environment under Allan's premiership, the specific allegations circulating in commentary, the obvious undue influence, the difference between systemic alignment and corrupt conduct, Yorick Piper's professional background. Public records and media reporting established that Piper has worked as a ministerial advisor in Victorian Labor governments, previously held a role within the CFMEU, served in board or governance positions connected to skills and workforce development bodies. These are not unusual career paths within Labor political ecosystems. The Australian Labor Party has a formal structural relationship with the union movement. Many Labor politicians and advisors come from union backgrounds. However, the CFMEU is not just any union. It is one of the most powerful industrial actors in Australia, particularly in construction, a sector deeply intertwined with Victorian infrastructure spending. The CFMEU controversy context. The CFMEU's construction division has faced serious allegations over the years involving governance failures, alleged intimidation tactics, regulatory breaches, federal scrutiny, and intervention. In 2024 to 2025, federal authorities moved to place certain CFMEU branches into administration following reporting and regulatory concerns. It is crucial to separate the union as an institution, individuals investigated within it. Former officials who are not subject to investigation, there is no public evidence linking Piper to misconduct findings within those probes. Nonetheless, his former association with the union makes him symbolically relevant in debates about union power and state government oversight. Jacinta Allan's decision-making environment. As Premier, Allan presides over major infrastructure programs, transport megaprojects, skills and workforce investment portfolios, industrial relations policy coordination. Victoria has experienced significant infrastructure cost blowouts across projects such as rail and hospital redevelopments, all involving the CFMEU. Critics often argue that union agreements and industrial conditions contribute to higher construction costs. Those critics then extend the argument: if the government has deep institutional ties to unions, can it independently regulate them? Proof of improper interference. The core allegations circulating. Critics have suggested that the government's defensive responses to questions about CFMEU corruption and the Premier's reluctance to engage on those issues signal a cover-up or lack of accountability, and that Premier Jacinta Allan's handling of questions on integrity and union links, particularly her refusal to answer some questions, boost suspicions of concealment rather than transparency, specifically pointing to Piper's union background and board roles as part of this narrative, implying that his connections might contribute to a perceived lack of integrity. Connections between the Labor leadership and the Construction, Forestry, Maritime, Mining and Energy Union, CFMEU, point to undue influence in infrastructure projects and political decisions. Partisan commentary surrounding Piper generally falls into three categories. 1. Undue influence claims. Opposition figures and commentators argue that former union officials embedded in political networks create structural bias in favor of union interests. The claim is not that Piper signed contracts or directed projects unlawfully, but that his proximity contributes to a system that may be too aligned with union power, which it clearly is. 2. The conflict of interest optics. Yorick Piper is a former CFMEU official married to the Victorian Premier, serving in governance roles linked to workforce and industry sectors. This combination creates a very clear appearance of potential conflict, particularly during periods when the CFMEU is under investigation. But appearance is not proof. No evidence has yet emerged of undisclosed financial conflicts or regulatory interference. 3. Government defensiveness. During questioning about union matters, the Premier on multiple occasions declined to elaborate extensively. This evasiveness furthers the reasonable suspicions. Supporters frame it as disciplined message control in a politicized environment. We frame it as more bullshit. 4. Structural labor-union relationships. To understand the controversy, one must understand labor's architecture. The ALP is historically and structurally linked to unions. Union delegates participate in party conferences. Union leaders often transition into political or advisory roles. This relationship is not hidden. It is foundational to the party's history. Thus, Piper's background is not anomalous. It is typical of labor political ecosystems. The question critics raise is not about legality, it is about balance. Can a government maintain regulatory distance from institutions that form part of its organizational base? The answer appears to be a resounding no. 5. Infrastructure spending and union power. Victoria's infrastructure program has been one of the largest in Australia. There are very clear links to cost escalations, industrial agreements, project delays, construction sector, labour arrangements. Independent audit reports have merely cited global supply chain issues, pandemic disruption, materials cost inflation, and scope changes as the drivers of these blowouts. The facts would suggest otherwise. 6. Is there evidence of improper influence? At present, publicly available information shows no corruption charges, no Integrity Commission findings, no procurement interference evidence, no documented intervention in policy decisions. The allegations remain political arguments about structural alignment, not substantiated acts of misconduct, but the wheels are slowly turning, and the optics would suggest there is certainly more to come. 7. The real political risk. Perception. Even in the absence of clear wrongdoing, perception matters. In a state facing record debt levels, infrastructure overruns federal intervention into a powerful union, any connection between the Premier's household and union networks will attract scrutiny. That scrutiny is amplified in a polarized media environment. 8. The boundary between scrutiny and smear. There is a legitimate public interest in examining potential conflicts of interest, disclosure obligations, governance safeguards. There is also a risk of guilt by association, amplifying unverified claims, conflating systemic party structure with personal misconduct. Responsible analysis must distinguish between the two. 9. The optics without proof. Yorick Piper's career reflects a common labour pathway: union roles, advisory positions, governance appointments. There is so far no verified evidence that he has exercised corrupt influence over Jacinta Allan's decisions as Premier. The allegations circulating are structural and political in nature. They focus on the closeness of labour and union networks, not on proven acts of wrongdoing. The debate ultimately concerns institutional proximity, public trust, regulatory independence, political optics. The most significant recent public controversy involving Piper came in December 2025 when he was pulled over in Bendigo and recorded a 0.05 blood alcohol reading at a roadside breath test. He was fined, disqualified from driving for 3 months, and required to install an interlock device in his vehicle. Jacinta Allan publicly described the situation as deeply shocking, disappointed, and embarrassed. And so you should be, Jacinta. Whether these optics amount to a governance problem depends less on partisan commentary and more on the strength of Victoria's integrity institutions, transparency requirements, and public accountability mechanisms. So I guess we will all just wait and see.
This is the hollow center of nothing, edge of everything, man.